All right, well, we can get started. I'm Melinda. I'm on Camber's marketing team. Thanks for joining our Recess Funding Explained, Unlocking EV Grants for California Schools webinar today. Before we get started, just wanted to go over a couple logistics. All participants' lines will be muted for the duration of the webinar. If there is a question, please use the Q&A tab. And if you have any technical issues, we will respond to you directly. And now I will pass it off to our two speakers today, Jessica Orton and Riley Young, to introduce themselves and get started.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to join us today. I know everyone is busy, and we truly do appreciate you guys spending time with us today to learn about the Recess Grant Program. For those that you have not had a chance to meet me, my name is Jessica Orton. I'm the Senior Sales Manager here at Camber Charging. I work with school districts and all across California, helping plan, fund, and implement the EV charging infrastructure for you. Today's webinar will be focused on, like Melinda said, the Recess Grant Program, where we will walk through what the program covers, key details, and funding opportunities. And I will pass it over to my counterpart.
Thanks, Jessica. Good morning, everybody. Riley Young, Director of Sales Operations for Camber. I work to support Jessica in her efforts ensuring that all across California, we're helping school districts on their journey to electrify. We've got some great information on the Recess Grant today, and welcome any questions or comments. And obviously, if any of you want to speak separately with us, our emails are available to you, so feel free to book a meeting with Jessica, book a meeting with me to discuss this program in more depth. So jumping right into it, I'll give you a little bit of background about Camber. Camber, we are a turnkey EV charging solutions provider. So from the initial design and the site considerations all the way through to the ongoing service and support of a unit throughout its life, we're there for our customers wholly. We've been in this business a while. We deployed our first commercial DC charger in 2009. We've deployed over 150 megawatts of chargers. So from small sites to big sites, we've done it all. And that's useful for you because we've learned a lot of lessons with those deployments on how to do things the right way, how to handle complications when they come up, how to deal with permitting and AHJ issues and how to interact with utility. We've got great relationships with hardware and software suppliers, all to bring you a seamless, easy to use solution tailored to your needs that can support you on the electrification journey. And as you can see, 1,500 plus chargers, 130 plus sites across North America, both the U.S. and Canada. I'd like to say we've got a pretty good idea of how, pretty good idea of this industry and pretty good knowledge of how to put some chargers in the ground. And we're happy to deploy that knowledge, obviously, for you folks as we work with you on your projects. So let's talk about Recess. The top line, everyone wants to know. To quote Tom Cruise, show me the money. So in this case, I'll show you the money. $22 million. That's the money. It's across 3 funding lanes. We're going to primarily talk about the 2, Funding Lane 2 and Funding Lane 3 today. Funding Lane 1 is a first come, first serve lane. It's for people who got HVIP money. If that's you or you want to discuss it, feel free to talk with Jess and I separately, but we're focusing on those other 2 lanes today. The Recess Grant is administered by the CEC. It's part of the CEC's Clean Transportation Program. So this is a California fund from California money. So this is a sort of a perennial recurring fund. We know the money's going to be there. We know the CEC's commitment to electrification. So this is a stable, ongoing source. Recess money funds charging infrastructure, not buses. This funds chargers, electrical upgrades, installation, the civil and electrical work. This does not pay for buses. So buses are going to be a separate funding source or a separate acquisition, but this will support the chargers, which we found is the #1 barrier to electrifying a fleet. Folks have relationships with bus dealers. They can get those buses in a relatively similar manner to how they procure existing buses. But when it comes to charging infrastructure, That's a new game. So we're glad that we can use this recess money to remove that barrier. And this is open to districts, charter schools, and bus operators. So there's going to be two groups we're talking mostly about today. Public schools. Apparently there's some balloons going off. Public schools, which are going to be described as LEA, local educational agencies within the documentation, and third-party transportation providers. These are groups that own buses and that have a service contract to transport students with a school already. The other biggest show me the money here, 0% matching funds required. So a lot of these grants are you have to put up 20%, you have to put up 40%, 50%. In this case, no matching. Strictly the recess money could cover up to 100% of your project costs if we can align that. And that's what Jess and I are here to do. Any comments on this, Jess, before I move forward?
No, I think you covered it.
Wonderful. And just checking the Q&A. Doesn't look like we have any questions. So then I will move on. All right. So eligibility requirements. As I said before, most California school bus operators qualify. Private schools, unfortunately, are not eligible, but all other local educational agencies are. And then those third-party transportation providers I mentioned before. So in this case, groups that own, maintain, and operate buses and have an existing service contract with a school district. So 3 other little points of qualifications. Applicants have to own the buses and all the charging equipment. These have to be installed at an existing bus yard or depot, so where your buses already are. Pretty convenient. And we have to serve buses that are new, either on order or existing but underused. So let me dig into that for a little bit. So if you have electric buses that you're currently not able to use because you're having issues with charging, let's say you got some long routes, you have some maybe lower powered chargers, and you're just not getting as much use of these buses as you could, Recess is perfect for that. If you've got buses that are already on order, this is perfect for that. Recess also allows you to, in your application, state that you're going to be purchasing buses or getting a purchase order within that 6-month window for when you sign your grant application, assuming you're successfully awarded. So this can be we're thinking about buses. We don't have anything on order yet, but we still want to put money in because if we can get some money, then we're going to commit to ordering these buses and deploying. And I'll circle back on that point in a little bit. So those funding lanes I talked about, funding lane 2 and funding lane 3. So they're both the same value, $9 million, and they cover the different entities. So funding lane 2 is for those local educational entities. In this case, the school districts, charter schools, county offices of education, joint power authorities, obviously not a school, but sort of within that same facility. And then funding lane 3 is going to be those third-party transportation providers. So separate lanes with similar deployment mechanisms and similar dollar values, in this case $9 million for each, and the caps are similar. So funding lane 2 has a $2.25 million cap per applicant, and funding lane 3 has between 2.25 and 4.5 million cap per applicant. I mentioned funding lane 1 before. There's $4 million in this lane. It's first come, first serve. This is for district funding, districts that already got HWIP funding for buses, but didn't get infrastructure funding. If you want to talk about this, if this is you, happy to speak separately, but sort of we're focusing really on the 2 competitive lanes here, 2 and 3. And the award formula is $20,000 per level 2 port deployed, plus $37,500 per DC fast charger port deployed, no matching funds required, and up to the cap. So I believe for level 2s, that's somewhere in the neighborhood of 450 ports is the cap, that $2.25 million cap. So assume we're not going to be deploying 200 plus chargers for any of you, but hey, if you got a project that large, Jessica and I are in. We want to do it. And then on the DC side, it's a little over 200 chargers. So plenty of room under those caps to deploy projects of any size and scale here. And obviously we're going to be building out these projects with you, and that would involve, of course, like going on site, looking at the design, thinking about how many buses you're going to order, how much power you have, sort of how we want to roll this into existing site infrastructure or plans for infrastructure, and ultimately coming up with an application and a budget and a project that fits for recess and then applying for it. So the application process, there's 4 major steps, and we're here to help you through all of them. So first one is register and choose a lane. In this case, register through the CEC's online portal if you haven't already done so. Set up your account, select the funding lane that fits your district. Obviously, if you're a school district, you're picking funding lane 2. If you're a third-party transportation provider, you're picking funding lane 3. Then assemble the application. Now, Jess and I have been looking at this with a fine-tooth comb, and we've been trying to do as much sort of application completion work as we can on these applications. There's a form, short project narrative, anywhere from 3 to 10 pages, budget, and then supporting letters. So if you haven't ordered buses, but you're committing to do so, you'd put a supporting letter in. If you have buses on order, you'd probably get the purchase order or a supporting letter from your dealer. We might bring letters from the manufacturer of the charging stations, depending on like sort of how much we want to talk about things like the Buy America compliance in this and sort of rolling out based on those different application regulations. But we're going to put that all together. Obviously, step 2, we're going to be hand in hand with you folks, making sure that we put this application together. It's competitive. We've got a great narrative around the project. We've got a clear budget for how much money we're requesting to do this project and sort of a clear like puts and takes where it's like, okay, this is the money we're requesting and this is how we're going to use it to then get these outcomes and sort of structuring that grant narrative. We're going to submit before the deadline. Deadline is August 31st at 11:59 p.m. So we have a little over a month to submit this. That time's going to go quick. So we're here to help you and move as quickly as possible. CEC is going to screen for eligibility, make sure that we checked all the boxes we needed to in our application form, and then they're going to score the competitive lanes, in this case 2 and 3, based on the project. So that's why that project narrative and sort of those puts and takes and laying out like, yes, you're paying $20,000 per charger, but what's the downstream effect of that? How does that impact the students? Or how does that impact, say, like bus particulate emissions in your community? Or how does that impact noise pollution? Like the CEC is going to want to see what are the downstream results of our spend and how can we celebrate those together? And that's going to help with competitive. And then obviously sign the grant agreement, and then Camber will come in and do what we do and support you to put the chargers in, install them, commission them, deploy them, and set them up for service on the project timeline. Now I see we have a Q&A, so I'm going to pause and answer that question. Justin says, who should we reach out to for support on our application at Camber? So that would either be Jess or myself, but I think Jess is your primary point of contact there. I've got Jess's back on everything. I'm here to support, but Jess is your number one contact for all things school bus. So definitely give her a call.
I'll put my information, Justin, in the chat so everyone has my contact information and Riley's as well.
Yeah, thanks. So, all right. So then moving on now, as I mentioned, the timeline, applications are due August 31st, 2026 at 11:59 p.m. So we've been doing as much work as we can to pre-fill those applications. But, I think from today, if you folks are interested, get in touch with Jess. We'll hit the ground running and we'll get in a successful application for the deadline. October 2026, the awards are going to be announced. Then January, February of 27, the CEC is going to approve all the awards. So this is the timeline when, you'll be like, okay, yep, I've got my money, my award, I've got my award in October. My award's been approved by the CEC. Then this starts a bit of a clock. So from this point here, the January, February timeline, within 6 months, we want to have a grant agreement signed between the CEC and obviously the entity that's receiving the grant. So that would be you fine folks on this call. Within this time, also, let's go back to the applications for a second. If we put in the application that we don't have buses now, but we're committing to ordering them upon receipt of the award, we have to make the district has to make that purchase order and make that order of buses within this 6-month window. so that, you know, when your grant agreement's signed and you've got the letter to the CEC that shows, hey, we signed the grant agreement, we're getting this money, we also just put in the order for buses. And then everything has to be in the ground, installed, and operating by March 2030. So this is a, you know, roughly 2.5 years, 2.5 year timeline to complete these projects, which is, you know, Camber's done a lot of these things. We're no sweat. We're, I would say, pretty consistently, you know, under timeline and on budget with our projects. So, you know, that March 2030 deadline, no problem at all. We're going to have things in the ground. We aim to have chargers deployed when your buses come on site. Obviously, if your buses are coming, you know, October 2026, maybe that's a little bit harder to achieve. But, you know, anytime in this 6-month window, making sure these chargers are in the ground for the arrival of those buses, perfectly doable. And that's what we're anticipating for our timeline. So we've reached the end of our presentation, but want to take any further questions, comments that anyone has. And I'll just leave this up. We have another webinar, August 26th. More details to come soon. We hope we hope we see you all for that. In the meantime, I will stop sharing my screen, and I'm ready to pull it back up if you want to reference anything specifically in the presentation. But we're open to any and all questions. And I see we've got one here, so let's see what that is. Oh, thank you, Michelle. All right. Any other questions from folks in the chat here? Justin, I know we had one from you. Michelle, Ted or Eddie, anything from either of you folks? And obviously, we can share this deck. We'll probably send it out to you guys later today, just for a quick explainer.
We have no questions. We have a couple minutes. I just want to make sure, like when Riley did talk about the funding and how much is available, I just want to make sure it says per charger, but that does include installation, engineering, construction, that kind of thing for this as well. So it's not that they just get it for the charger and then you have to figure out the rest, but just wanted to make that clear.
I see we have another question. What if we have already started working with another installer like Mobility House? So that's a great question. As I said at the beginning, you know, Camber is a turnkey provider. We provide sort of everything in the whole circle of the solution. But we also can provide, you know, certain things and work with other partners to provide certain things. So in this case, you mentioned Mobility House. So, you know, if Mobility House is your installer, potentially, and you want to work with us and them, obviously we'd probably want to have a separate call with you and sort of think about how we could make that work if you want to work with all of us, and like how the work would be divvied up. I defer to Jess a little bit on the like exact coordination, but we've definitely had opportunities where we've worked with sort of like multiple partners to make sure that ultimately the school district client got the solution they needed and were really happy with the charging we put in.
And if you want to have a meeting offline so we can discuss your project, where you're at, and what you're looking for, we can definitely do that as well. I can reach out to you. We have another question here, Riley. What about charger maintenance and service? Any of that included? So software, warranty, preventative maintenance, that is included in that cost.
Great. All right. Anything else?
Oh, I think I mean, I think if anyone doesn't have any more questions, Riley, I think we're really excited to reach out to those that are interested, having those offline conversations to see how Camber can help um, and get this started.
Absolutely. Yeah, the recess program is a great program, given that it's, state funded, it's a robust source, and it really aims at the number one barrier to fleet electrification, which is the charging solutions. So we're really excited to see this funding out there, and obviously we look forward to working with any and all school districts, including you fine folks on the call, for ultimately deploying a solution, putting in an application, winning some money, and being able to do a project together. So Jess and I stand ready to chat with any and all of you separately if you want to really dig into this and start to put those applications together. Yeah. So as Jess said, we dropped our contact information. So feel free to shoot us an email, give Jess a call, and we'll take it from there. In the meantime, I think we can give everyone a little bit of time back. Thank you all for your attendance of this webinar today. It was our pleasure, and we look forward to hearing from you about recess.
Thanks, everyone.